Thanks for staying with us. So, the CBN recently barred the bureau de change from selling when dealing in forex trading. And of course, this news had come as a shock to many Nigerians. Joining us on the show right now to help us have a better understanding of the consequences of this is a fiscal policy partner and Africa tax leader at the PricewaterhouseCoopers, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much.
Good to have you on. All right, so there are mixed feelings concerning this recent ban by CBN of the bureau de change, and it's mostly because we're going back to history and what happened in 2016 when this same ban was given by CBN. If you recall, then at the time it was about 268 to the dollar. And I think the ban was made in January, and by December of the same year, there was about 46% devaluation of the naira. We came to about 495 naira to the dollar. Now, Nigerians are scared that with this ban that just happened, exactly, and right now, dollar is 500 naira to the dollar. Now, we might experience the same thing by the end of the year. What are your own thoughts on this ban, and do you think it's the right thing to do at this time?
Thank you very much. I think maybe the starting point is to identify and situate the problem appropriately. So the problem is lack of dollar liquidity. So we're not generating and earning enough dollars to meet our demand. Whether you talk about foreign direct investment, foreign portfolio investment, diaspora remittances, and from the sale of crude oil, which is where we mostly get our FX from. So that's where the problem started from. And that problem is still there. What the CBN is trying to do is to cut out people who are benefiting from this very difficult time that we are in, and an extremely difficult challenge that we're trying to deal with as a country. So there are people who are benefiting from it. And the way you would know is if you just go back a couple of years and look at the number of BDCs we have in Nigeria, and then fast forward to today, that number has increased by more than tenfold. That's over 1,000% increase. So even though we have less dollar liquidity, less people are traveling, less people are doing medical, tourism. So the demand and the supply of FX is lower, yet the number of BDCs are increasing. It's because it's profitable. So you can get dollars somewhere around 400 and sell at about 100 naira margin per dollar. So it's lucrative. So what that then does is it provides the avenue not only for those BDCs making money at the expense of the country, and it's also that they're using it for illicit transactions. So that's what the CBN is trying to stop. I don't think it's a question of whether it's right or wrong. It's a question of after stopping the BDCs, then what do you do? Because that in itself does not increase the supply of dollar to Nigeria. It has to be that you then ensure that the banks, for example, are supplied with the same quantity of dollars you would have supplied to the BDCs. And the process for getting and accessing those dollars at banks should be as simple as it will be when people go to the BDCs, provided they're doing so for legitimate reasons.
Right.
All right. So the central bank has accused the BDCs of abandoning their primary objective, which is to serve the end users by, those people who need $5,000 maximum or minimum, but that they had left that primary objective and they are now using their operations to launder money. Should the first step be to stop giving them forex, or to have started regulating them and finding those BDCs that commit that offense, so that we don't get to this level?
Yes. So the fact that we had a similar scenario played out in 2016 is an indication that just banning them will not solve the problem. So like you said, we had this in 2016. BDCs were banned. Exchange was 268. It went all the way to 495. Even though I would not attribute that devaluation or depreciation in the value of naira solely to the ban of the BDCs. But at the end of the day, we have to find a systematic and structured way of preventing people who want to abuse the system. So this is not peculiar to Nigeria. This is not peculiar to BDCs. It's just human nature in many places that people want to take advantage of the system to the extent that it benefits them, not minding the overall implication for the larger society. So what we need to do is to better regulate them and have controls. So if you supply, someone $1 million and they operate a BDC, and you ask them to give you documentation and data, and they fail in doing so, don't supply them tomorrow. So we shouldn't wait until these things accumulate and create a bigger problem for us. I think we're at a point now where we have more credible basis of getting data. Maybe you're going to use NIN, maybe you're going to use BVN, something that is more credible that cannot be easily faked to get those data. So what is most important is to know who is buying the dollars and for what purposes. So when you see people start moving volumes, they're no longer doing $4,000, $2,000, they're moving volumes, then you need to start questioning that, not only to stop the abuse, but also to find out, what are they moving the monies for? Is it to fund terrorism? Is it for corruption? Is it illicit financial flows? So in which case, after dealing with the FX problem, you hand them over to the relevant authorities for prosecution. When people know that these things are being tracked based on intelligence and data, and there will be consequences, then you deal with the artificial, demand of people just buying dollars for illicit purposes.
Okay.
So I'm really concerned about policy flip-flop and the far-reaching effect of this change in policies. In this year, we've banned several things. We have changed several, we seem to be extremely reactive as a government, not taking into cognizance the far-reaching effects on our economy directly and indirectly through the fact that we will have foreign direct investment. People will look at us and feel like, I can't put a business here. Every BDC gets licensed, like they apply. The CBN has a process for licensing them. So how come when they get licensing, why are we worried about the numbers? Why are we worried about corruption within the BDC? Why are we worried about abuse when everybody knows the rules? That's number one. Number two, is it impossible to identify the corrupt ones and penalize them and fine them and even prosecute them for fraudulent activities? And sir, you understand the economic angle. First, I want you to answer the first question, which is the far-reaching effects on confidence of investors in Nigeria based on the fact that we're always changing policies, and then also addressing the fact that prosecution should be the next line of action, and we're not doing that.
Yeah, so definitely, any actions you take will have implication on investment and investors' confidence. Maybe positive, maybe negative. So you don't have to also, keep your policies the same regardless, because things also change and you need to adapt to match those situations. So having banned the BDCs, the fundamental question is, what do you then do after that? So of course, it's not a permanent ban. You can't ban BDCs forever. So for how long and what do you want to do? And more importantly, how do you stop that from happening again? And in the interim, what would be the alternatives? So if you supply the I&E window with sufficient liquidity of dollars, and you can, maybe what you should have given to the BDCs, you move it to the I&E window and to the banks. I can then walk to the bank to buy FX for if I want to travel, or if I want to pay medical fees, or if I want to pay for school fees. If I can get that and it's almost as simple and easy as for BDC, then this should actually have a positive impact on investors' confidence. Because investors will interpret it to say that what you're trying to do is just to deal with the guys who are abusing the system. So that on one hand is important. Now, about prosecution, you can only prosecute when you have the right data. I do think that the authorities have the ability and the capacity to collect data and to use that data to prosecute as quickly as possible and not allow these practices to become widespread. If someone does it and gets away with it for a few days, another person will join them. That is why you have that. So it's not bad in itself that you have so many BDCs. It is the fact that why is it that it has suddenly become so attractive? And is it costing us a lot? Because if you don't manage that, it's just going to be completely out of control.
Right.
We can't afford that.
All right, let me go on a quick break. When we come back, we continue this conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So we're still quite worried about this recent ban by CBN of the bureau de change. Nima had a question for our guest.
Yes. So, is it on?
Yes, Mr. Oyedele, are you still there?
Yes,
Okay,
no,
go ahead.
I'm not an economist, but when there's scarcity, there's always high demand. And we saw how it played out in 2016. Is this the only way, creating scarcity, is it the only way that the CBN can regulate this sector? Every time they do it, a few people get richer. We know the 2016 made billionaires out of people who had dollars at the time. So is this the only solution, the only way? Can they not look at it knowing that we're a mono economy and we do not have other ways of, to empower the Naira? Are there no other methods to solving this problem within the BDCs?
Yeah, of course, there are other methods. It's just that you have to always think about the consequences. So on one hand, it's not CBN creating the scarcity. So by stopping BDCs, you haven't created scarcity if you continue to supply the same amount of dollars. So it's just a question of the segment of the market you are supplying. So which is why I made the point, if you ensure that all legitimate demands are being met, then it's fine. So which means the people who really suffer the scarcity and the depreciation in the exchange rate are the people doing the illicit transactions. And we shouldn't worry about them, other than, in fact, we should try and find who they are and try and make sure that there are consequences for what they're doing. So I think that if you want to think about the solution, it has to be, how do you bring FDI back? The data we have shows that FDI has declined significantly. That's foreign direct investment. Same thing with foreign portfolio investment and diaspora remittances. So we have to then think about what should we do to bring all of that back. Luckily, the oil price I think is better than what it was in 2016. Although we also have an issue with the OPEC quota where we cannot produce more than a certain level of quantity per day. But overall, if we make sure that we take care of legitimate demands, we make the process of getting the dollars for those legitimate transactions easy, and then get data about those who are trying to game the system and apply sanctions, consequences, and prosecution, and then I think we'll be on our way to solving this problem.
We are all Nigerians. I mean, these people always find a way to beat the system. I mean, because I understand the issue of the FDI's direct investment coming to the country, but shouldn't these be like trade-offs? Like, can't we understand that, listen, at this time, because there are real issues of money laundering. The people that are buying ammunition, we are seeing the fact that headers are armed. These are issues the government is trying to solve, to stop people buying this ammunition. So there's a real problem at hand. So should our focus be, FDI, of the direct investment for now, or to ensure that we stabilize this current issue of dollar in our country?
Yeah, no, I don't think it's one or the other, it's both. So at the same time, you want to have dollar liquidity because you need it. It's an import-dependent economy, so we continue to import a lot of things from refined products to even food items. So you need dollar liquidity. If you don't have enough dollars, you're going to have value of Naira depreciating, and that will lead to imported inflation, and that will lead to more difficulties for Nigerian people. At the same time, whether you have dollar or not, even the US, that dollar is their own currency, they still have to deal with terrorism. So whether you have dollar liquidity or not, you have to address the issue of insecurity, funding of terrorism, illicit financial flow from corruption. And those are the things you do by ensuring that your regulators and the right authorities have the capacity, they're using the data, and there's the political will to prosecute. Otherwise, you can see all these things on TV and media generally and do nothing about it, or maybe only address 2 or 3 people who are helpless. And you need the other guys to continue.
Let me take
so it has to be a holistic approach.
Mr. Ajayi, are you there from Ibadan?
I'm here with you.
You're live. Go ahead, please.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Yeah, I want to talk about this ban of period change concerning CBN banning them from getting dollars and then halting their license of operation. Now, this one has happened before and has never helped us. Except for those that import things, and you go abroad, you buy things, you have to make payments. So the policy of CBN, I'm still really, I'm trying to comprehend what effect it has really, what it has contributed to the progress of the reduction in dollar rate. As of yesterday, immediately banned this yesterday, dollar has risen to 530.
Wow.
So if these things, if this policy continues, it's going to be affecting us. It has never helped us. Now, if you go to a bank, they have access to dollars, to collect dollars from banks, without all those protocols, and at the end of the day, they will tell you have to fill this form, and you won't even get it. So if we don't have access, if CBN wants to give us direct access to dollars through banks, it's okay. If they have that policy.
Oh, you see, that's an average Nigerian there complaining, and obviously you can feel his pain. I have to wrap up. Let me just let PC jump in here for a quick
So I am particularly worried about medium and small-scale businesses that will be affected by this ban on giving forex, because I know that some of these businesses are not able to access forex through the banks. They go through the BDCs, and now that there is a ban, do you think that they should have been? Excuse me.
Yeah.
Can you hear me, sir?
If a small business, yes, I can. If a small business is doing legitimate business, they can access FS from banks.
For buying
even individuals, if you want to travel today, you can access FX. So if any small business is unable to access FX from banks, it's either because they don't want to go through the rigor or they're hiding what they're doing. So I don't think this is particularly going to affect SMEs negatively.
How much they can access?
A lot of the items that we need, they're not under the list that is accepted. So you want to buy hair, you want to buy clothes, and many Nigerian businesses are buying hair and clothes from
outside the country.
And they need dollars to buy them. So it's not. We're not talking about you are buying.
Are those contrabands though? Are they contrabands?
No, but it's not. Many businesses thrive on it, so it's not like
they're not contraband. They're not contraband, so these are just items that the CBN has prohibited, and they don't just affect SME, they affect everyone, whether you're big or small. If you're importing items that the CBN does not want to support with their FX, you'll not be able to get it from the bank. So you have to then go and find alternative ways of importing.
And that is where the problem is.
Alternative ways, because right now we are going to be empowering the black markets that are like under G black markets. Because you cannot go to official BDCs anymore. There are people that will fill the gap because there's a need. We'll just be profiting a few people.
Unfortunately, we have to wrap up. But I think we're just going to start this conversation because there are lots of people realistically who need these services from the Bureau de Change. And unfortunately, because the CBN has banned it, it's going to cause a problem. So we'll definitely try to bring in officials from CBN to see what can be done to help close this gap. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us this morning. I think we appreciate your thoughts.
Thank you.
And we'll be in touch with you soon. Let's go on a break now. When we come back, move on to other topics. Stay with us. We'll be right back.